Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we are going to make a delicious Chinese dish. It is broccoli stir-fry with Chinese barbecue pork. And the first thing I'm going to show you in this video is how to make the Chinese barbecue pork. It's very easy and it's awfully delicious. And then after that, I'll show you how to use it in the stir-fry. So come on, let's cook. And here are the ingredients for our Chinese barbecue pork. We have 2.5 to 3 pounds of pork loin rib chops, and you might be able to find another pork that you can use for this, at one of your local stores, but you're looking for something that has that kind of pork choppy consistency, and the thickness helps too because we're going to cut this into strips, and they have to stand up to some grilling. We're also going to use a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of 5-spice Chinese powder, 3 tablespoons of sweet rice cooking wine, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of honey, 4 cloves of garlic, which we're going to crush or you can finely mince, 1 inch of fresh ginger, which we're either going to really finely mince, or you can even grate that if you want, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And that's going to be our marinade, and it makes this absolutely delicious sauce. So let me show you how to put this together. So I put the pork in the fridge so it stays nice and chilled while we prepare the marinade. So first of all, we want to add our 1/2 cup of light brown sugar into this bowl. There we go. And this is not a really lumpy sugar, so I'm not worried about it balling up into these really crispy pieces. Next we have our 2 teaspoons of salt. There we go. We have our 1 teaspoon of 5-spice Chinese powder. Here come our 3 tablespoons of sweet rice cooking wine. Our 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, our 2 tablespoons of honey, this already smells quite delicious, by the way. It smells exactly like the great Chinese ribs that you'll get in a good Chinese restaurant. It smells just like that sauce. And we still have a lot of ingredients to add. Honey's kind of sticky, of course. Now let's crush or mince our garlic cloves, in this case I'm crushing them, into the mix. You can also just finely mince it, that's fine by me. And now we'll prepare our ginger. And this is kind of a thick piece of ginger, but I actually like ginger. So a little extra is not going to hurt me. So I'm just taking off the ginger skin. And then I'm just cutting off the dry little end that was there. Now if you have a tiny grater, you can grate 1 inch off of this. And you know, the graters with the little holes, and that's fine. With this, I don't mind it having a little bit of a presence, so I just like to cut it like this, and then we'll mince it. So I'm cutting it very, very thin, just even beyond paper thin almost. I'm not sure that's quite possible. But this is just magnificent. I wish you could smell this aroma already. And this is a sauce that you can use on the pork, but you can also use it on chicken, a marinade on chicken. I mean, heck, you could probably use it on salmon and it would taste good. It's just a little. It's kind of a little bit more viscous and viscous and complex than a teriyaki sauce, but it is yummy. And I think after you try it on the pork, you're going to start thinking, boy, what else can I put this on? And like I said, even pork ribs, this would taste good on. So now I'm just giving it a mince. Ginger is just so delicious. What a magnificent gift from nature ginger is. Oh, is it good? And then you just turn it. Oops, just had my crusher in the way. Just turn it and just keep on giving it little minces. And, you know, finding a little piece of ginger in your Chinese food, in this barbecue sauce, it's actually kind of a rewarding surprise. It just has a certain zing to it. And if you can't get fresh ginger, you can use some powdered ginger. And I would just add, powdered ginger is pretty potent. I would just add a 1/4 teaspoon. And then to give the sauce a little taste and see if you can taste the ginger in it. And if you can't, then just add a little bit more. But don't go overboard because, again, it's pretty potent and you don't want it to really take over this barbecue sauce. Just putting that right into the bowl. Yum. And the last thing I'm going to add is our teaspoon of onion powder. And use onion powder, not onion salt, because we already added salt to this and soy sauce. So if you add onion salt, it's just gonna become way too salty. And then we'll just stir all of this in. And you can see it's a nice, thick sauce. Wow, look at that. And you know, you can even take another clean spoon and give it a little bit of a taste. And then you can decide, does it need something else? Is there something you'd like to add more of to your taste? This is being made to my taste. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. That is rich and superb. And now, what we're going to do is use this as a marinade. Ideally, you made the marinade a night ahead of when you're going to cook it, and the pork can just soak in it overnight. If you don't have that kind of time, or you're getting started a little bit late on this recipe, then 3 to 4 hours of marinating is fine too, because you're going to have some extra sauce that you can throw back onto the pork in the process that will just add plenty of flavor. Plus we're slicing the pork too, so it's going to get all over the pork. So that is one tasty sauce. So now I'm going to get the pork and we're going to slice that, pour this on it, put it into a container, and start the marination process. And here's our pork. And what we're going to do, and you can see this is very thick, is we're going to cut it into inch-thick slices. Just like this. And the reason I'm cutting it big like this is that I don't want it to fall through the grates on my grill. And I want it to get nice and grilled through. Now, this is very similar to the, I have to trim off a little fat, you can see. Very similar to the pork that you'd get in a Chinese restaurant. And the main thing that's missing is red food coloring. Some people will use a red food coloring in this just to make it look more like the restaurants that they're used to. And I guess if you have a purist in your family, you might want to get some red food coloring and just add some until it gets a redder color to it. But honestly, I think we should all be beyond that whole food coloring thing, because the food itself will present just fine grilled. Trust me after you see it. And it just tastes delicious. So I don't think really the dye, it doesn't do anything for me. But if you really feel strongly about that, you can, yes, add red food coloring. And I'm just giving this a very light trim because the grill will take care of some of this fat too. So again, nice 1-inch thick strips. That marinade is really going to soak into this. And with this barbecued pork, the other point I want to make is I'm going to grill it. I'm going to show you tomorrow how I grill it. Some people will make it right in the oven. If you don't have a grill, you can still make this dish. And I'll explain it in the written recipe how to grill it. And the written recipe will be on stepbystepchef.com. And eventually, if not already, in a version of my cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. So there's our meat all chopped up. Let's just pour our barbecue sauce, our Chinese barbecue sauce marinade right on there. Wow, that is just delicious. That aroma. I want to make another bowl of it and just sit and drink it, but I know that won't end well. So here we go. Just stir it in. Make sure all of the pork is covered. And then whenever you think of it, like this is going to be in my refrigerator overnight, and I'm not going to grill it until tomorrow afternoon. So whenever I'm thinking about it, whenever I'm looking in the fridge, just give it a quick stir. Okay, so that's heading into the fridge, and I'll see you tomorrow. And here's the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to take a look at our Chinese barbecued pork, which has been marinating overnight. So let's see what we have. And I have turned this occasionally. Oh boy, yeah, look at that. The marinade worked right into it. The pieces practically look like they're crispy with it. So what we're going to do is take these slices out to the grill. And I'm also putting on stepbystepchef.com with this recipe the way you can prepare it in your oven. But since I do have a barbecue handy, and it is a barbecue kind of afternoon, I'm going to run this out there and bring you along, and let's go do some barbecuing. Okay, so here we are. We're outdoors, we're out at the grill, and this is a community grill. So when you see how kind of dirty it is inside, please don't write to me and say, "Dear Step by Step, clean that grill, dude." I just did the best I could. But what we have out here with us is, we have our pork, we have a spoon to put some of that sauce onto the pork as it grills, and I have a spatula and a mitt in case things get out of control. I also have a clean plate under there that we're going to put the meat on after it cooks. Never put the meat back on the dirty plate that you just used. And here we have our grill, and it is preheated at 400 degrees. So it's ready. It's ready for me to put the meat inside. Now these pieces are really thin, so it's not going to take me that long to grill these. And again, you can see how well these have marinated. Just perfect. This is going to be some Chinese barbecue pork. And I didn't show you how to operate the grill because honestly, every type of grill is a little bit different. The manufacturer instructions are different, and that's what you need to read to safely operate your grill. And make sure to read that too. Read the operating instructions. You don't want to get hurt using a grill. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they'll turn the gas on, they'll close the lid, and then they'll try to light it. And when they try to light it, boom. You know, all the gas builds up and it'll just go boom. So there's our meat all lined up, and we're going to close the cover. And I'm going to close it for 5 minutes and then flip the pork. So here we are 5 minutes later, and the grill is really rocking. So you can see the meat's browning nicely. perfect. Look at that color. That is grilled meat. And like I said before, this is not going to take long because we're up around 400, 500 degrees now, and these are very thin slices. I'm going to put the pieces close together. And then let's spoon some of our marinade on them. And then what I'm going to do is just flip them over briefly one more time after the next 5 minutes. This is almost like caramelized barbecue sauce. It's just going to be so delicious. And again, if you want to color it red, we talked about that last night. If you want to color it red, go ahead. But honestly, I think we can get over that it's not red. The flavor is magnificent. And wait till you see what I'm going to put these, what I'm going to put this pork into. This isn't just meat that we're going to eat on its own. We're going to put it in some recipes. And you will find those recipes on stepbystepchef.com. And 5 minutes later, let's go check on our barbecued Chinese pork. So here we go. Let's see, the grill is up at just over 450. Oh, those pieces are looking so good. And now, like I told you before, I just want to give it a quick flip just to caramelize the last of the marinade that I put on it. The barbecue sauce. Quick flip, I'm going to close it for a minute, and then it's done. And I just want to point something out. This end of the grill is a little hotter, so I may have to cook the ones at this end for just another minute or two after I close the hood. So I think I'm actually going to take these out right now. So we have to be a little flexible when we're cooking this. So I have my clean plate all at the ready. Again, never put the stuff that you cook back on the plate that you brought it out in. Very unhygienic, and if you get caught doing it, you're going to tick off a lot of people. I'm actually going to take these pieces and move them down to this hotter end. And now we'll just close the cover for a couple of minutes. And 2 minutes later, let's take a look. That pork is what they call done. So let's scoop it off there. Now, if you're doubtful at all whether or not the pork is grilled through all the way, take a piece of it and just cut it in half. You shouldn't see any pink meat at all. This pork is done. Let's take it on inside. We're going to form the stir fry with 2 large crowns of broccoli that we're going to trim down. We're going to use half of that sweet red pepper. We're going to sliver the sweet onion. We're going to use this 2 celery stalks that we're going to slice up. We're also going to slice up four green onions. I have an inch of this really good ginger here that we're going to use. We're going to use 4 garlic cloves and optional a Serrano pepper. And you know, you might only want to use half of this if you like it spicy because these can be really hot. So it's totally up to you. I like a little heat in my Chinese food, so I'll probably use about half of that. And then we're going to make a sauce to go with the stir fry out of 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 cups of this chicken broth, and you can use homemade. I do have a recipe on Step by Step Chef for making a homemade. Just make sure that you get a good chicken broth. And then we're going to use a teaspoon of sesame seed oil. And we're going to cook it all. We're going to stir this stir fry in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So let me show you how to put all this together. So I have this large bowl standing by for the crunchy vegetables that are going to go into our stir fry. And the first thing I want to do is just cut these florets off of this stem. I'm certainly not going to put this stem in our stir fry. And then all I do is just take our broccoli and just trim it like this. As we stir fry, it will shrink down some. And if you like your pieces of broccoli smaller, you can certainly do that. But this is just fine for me. And I do like some of the stem in it because that's where a lot of the sweetness comes out of broccoli. There we go. I mean, that pretty much stemmed itself. And I'm not going to bore you by showing you how to do both of the crowns of broccoli, but I think you get the point. And we're just going to cut this into slivers. And if you can't get sweet onion, that's okay. Just use yellow or white. But the sweet onion certainly adds a delicious flavor to these dishes. So I'm just taking the skin off. And then just cutting it in half. And then just going like this to cut it into slivers. See, delicious cooking, it doesn't have to be complicated. And if you do it the step-by-step way, and I mean my recipes or anybody else's, it's so easy and it's so rewarding, it's so delicious. I know you can do this. You can prepare every recipe of the 100 plus on Step by Step Chef. I know you can prepare every one of them. So there we go. Just putting the onions in with the broccoli. And now comes our celery stalks, and certainly I'm going to trim off the thick ends of it. And then we're just going to go right up it. Let me get rid of these nubbies too. Okay, now we're just going to go right up it and make these like 1/8 of an inch thick slices. And you can add more or less of any of these ingredients. The fun of cooking at home is making it to your taste. How do you like it? I'm showing you basically how I like it, but I know that every recipe I've ever read, I've made it my own because there was something about it that didn't quite appeal to me. And in this case, it's just add the vegetables that you like in the quantities that you like. The celery gives it a nice crispness. And now comes half of our red pepper. And I add the red pepper not only for its delicious sweet taste, but because it looks really good in a stir fry. I'm sorry, when it comes to cooking, I try to be a bit of a fashion plate. Yeah, I can be fancy. So I'm just coring it, and I'm going to rinse the seeds out. And then just slice it. And I'm slicing it into about 1/8 to 1/4 inch slices. And then we're just going to go up the line like this. And these are like 1/4 inch slices too. So this is how we chop. And it just adds such a nice color contrast. And honestly, it adds a little bit of a sweetness to this dish too. So we'll just put this all in the same bowl. Our stir-fried vegetable bowl, as it's known on Step by Step Chef programs. And now we'll chop our green onion. I absolutely love this in Chinese food. If you look in Chinese food you get in restaurants, it usually has some of this in some form. Usually it's a little bit scorchy delicious. But I just, I try to keep up with the flavors, and this is almost a necessity, even though we already have onion in our stir fry. And again, it adds a nice rich color too. Color and texture can have as much to do with aromatics and taste with a lot of these dishes. And yet you can do that without it being complicated. Step by step. Let's think step by step. You can do this. You can cook. You can cook anything you want. You just go patiently about your way. Wow, that is such a delicious aroma. Now comes our moment of truth. The Serrano pepper. And the question at this point is, do you like heat or not? If you don't like it spicy, leave it out. Normally, I would add this whole thing and turn this into a fire pit of a stir fry. But some people in my house are not in the mood for spicy hot right now. And so I always ask, hey, can you take it? The answer today was no. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this, just enough to give it a little bit of spicy warmth and complexity, but I'm not going to town. I'm wearing this glove because Serranos are super hot. If I get this on my fingers, I guarantee you, first, my fingers are going to burn. Second of all, I'm going to touch something that you probably shouldn't touch when your fingers are burning. I mean my eyes. So you just trim out this core, and that's actually where the heat is. That's where the most heat is. That's it. And then I'm just going to rinse these seeds out. And I'm just going to cut it lengthwise in half, and then I'm going to mince it. And this will just make it interesting enough without offending anybody who can't stand the heat. Now, I respect people who can't take the heat. There are flavors I can't take either. So it's not a, oh my God. Oh, whew, that's a hot one. So it's not a challenging thing, but I try to make food that people will enjoy, not food that's going to make them maybe, I don't know, start on fire at my dinner table. So that's just a little bit, just enough to add some heat. And I'm fighting the urge to add that. I'm not going to. I was asked not to. So let's set that aside, and now we'll put our sauce together. And for our sauce, I'm going to use 2 cups of this chicken broth. And some people really don't like their stir fry that saucy, but I like it with a little bit of a saucy presence because it just tastes better on rice to me, or on, like lo mein noodles. So I'm going to make it. And it'll be a nice, slightly thick sauce because we're also adding cornstarch to it. And now we'll add our 1 inch of ginger finely minced. And it's really funny about ginger is people tend to be kind of intimidated by it. I think because it looks so weird. They're like, what do you do with that? But once you slice into it and you get that gingery aroma, all of a sudden you're going to want to add it to everything. Someone gives you oatmeal, you're going to go, do you have any ginger? It's just that good. It's such a unique gift. It is a gift. There are so many things when you cook enough that you realize, wow, what a gift that we get to have this. Ginger is absolutely one of them. And for some of us, garlic is another one. The hot peppers are one of them. And herbs. Herbs, an absolute gift. And then honestly, everything else. So I'm just very, very paper thin slicing this ginger, and then we'll just mince it up. But ginger is just so unique. It's just, wow, what an aroma. It just makes you, I don't know, if you cook enough, I'm going to be sappy for a moment. It makes you feel lucky to be alive. I know. But it's just so delicious. Oops, I just grabbed my glove. I shouldn't be wearing this glove at this point anyways, I don't need it. So now we just take the ginger and we just mince it. And if you have a grater, like one of those little graters, you can also grate this super tiny. But I actually eat my stir fry and find these pieces of ginger in it. And I go, wow, that's delicious. It's like a spark going on even within a very delicious, intrinsically delicious dish. It's like a spark that goes off in your mouth. It's so tasty. So we just do this to it. Just give it a nice mincing. If you don't like ginger, you don't like garlic, you don't like celery, you don't like red peppers, you don't like broccoli, you don't like sauce, oh, well, I guess you should make meatloaf instead. And I do have a recipe for that too. Like I said, I don't want to cut this too small because I want those surprise pieces of ginger as I'm enjoying my stir fry. So right into the sauce. Wow, is that delicious, that aroma. And then we'll just take our garlic, and I have a crusher for the garlic. If you don't have a crusher, just finely mince it. That's fine too. I'm just putting it right in there. And the reason I don't put the garlic in with the other stir-fry vegetables is, to me, the garlic can't always take it and it'll start to caramelize or burn. So I like to just put it in the sauce. When we stir the sauce in, it'll heat up plenty and all the flavors will be released. But again, another one of my all-time favorites. And I do have a garlic soup recipe on stepbystepchef.com. If you love garlic, take a look at that recipe. I learned how to make it after I went to Panama City, Panama, which actually had the best garlic soup I've ever had. It just blew me away, and I was like, boy, I gotta make that when I go home. Well, if you look at stepbystepchef.com, you will find a recipe for that. Now let's add our other ingredients. And here's our 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is a thickener. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can add more if you want, but I like to add soy sauce at the table also, do it to taste. So don't worry about this sauce being super soy saucy. And here's our teaspoon, a teaspoon of sesame seed oil. And that's what gives it a real Chinese flavor. And you can add more if you want. After you cook it, you can stir it in. You'll give this a little taste anyways and decide what else you want to add. But wow, this is absolutely a very Chinese food taste. And the final pre-prep thing we're going to do is just chop up our Chinese pork, our Chinese barbecued pork. And like I said before, I showed you how to make 2 to 3 pounds of it, so you can add more if you want. I like this as a veggie-rich dish, a veggie-rich stir-fry. But if you want to add a whole pound, if you want to add 2 pounds, I'm not going to stop you. But I just love how it all melds together. So I'm cutting this into 1/8 to 1/4 inch pieces, and then we're just going to slice it. And I know people love meat. Meat, should make your recipe taste good, but also these fresh vegetables that we're going to stir fry, they got to stand out too. But again, do it to your taste. You want to add more of the Chinese barbecue pork, do it, because it certainly is delicious. And I'm also going to post recipes of how to use this in fried rice and pork egg foo young, and perhaps, to nobody's surprise, an omelet. Okay, so there's our pork all ready to roll too. Okay, now this deep skillet has been preheating over medium heat for about 3 minutes. And if you're going to have this dish, if you're going to have your stir fry with rice, start the rice now and have some water ready if you're going to have it with lo mein or some Chinese noodles of any other sort. Start it right now, start that water, and then just time it out. Making the stir fry itself will probably take 15 to 20 minutes, so starting your rice right now is a good idea. So we're just going to add our 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and then we're just going to pour our veggies right in, mix the oil in with them. and start the stir-fry process. Now, if you have a wok, use it. If you have shallow frying pans, not this deep skillet, you might have to make it in 2 batches. That's totally up to you. But, you know, you certainly don't want all of these ingredients falling off the top of the pan. So you just do this, and then you just keep stirring it. And what we're looking for is some, you know, the vegetables to cook down a little bit, some translucency. And then we're going to add our sauce and just cook it for a little while longer. So just give this a frequent stir. I'm working around a tripod, so it's a little difficult. And keep an eye on it. And again, it'll take about probably around 15 minutes to get these to cook down to where we want them. So here we are 5 minutes into the stir-fry process. Remember, stir-fry means you stir and you fry. You gotta stir this. And you can see the broccoli is starting to look absolutely delicious. It's cooking, it's getting some great color to it. It actually got brighter since we've been cooking it. I'm just going to keep doing this for another 5 minutes, and then I think it's going to be ready for the other ingredients. And here we are at 10 minutes. Everything is still plenty crisp. I'm still stirring because it is stir fry. And what I'm going to do is see you in 5 minutes, and then that will be our 15-minute mark. We're going to add the pork and the sauce and just heat it right up. Okay, now here we are. The broccoli is sautéed or stir-fried, but it still has a little bit of crispness to it. So let's put in our pork. There's that, oops, I'm not letting any of this get away. There is our delicious Chinese barbecued pork. Yum. And then let me go get the sauce. Now, it depends on how saucy you like, how much of this sauce you want. Just make sure to mix it up. You don't want clumps of cornstarch in it. But let's see. Oh yeah, I have people in my house who absolutely love this super saucy. So when they have it over rice, they really want that saucy presence. So what we'll do is we're going to cook this in the sauce for another 5 to 10 minutes until the sauce turns just a little bit thick, but I don't want to lose that vegetable crispness. So let's give it a little bit of a stir. And that cornstarch will do its magic. And some people might say, well, why do you bother to do this? You can just go buy it in a restaurant. Do you want to know why I do this? Because I can make it exactly the way I like it. And I can make it with a lot less oil, quite frankly, and a lot less salt, a lot less sodium. Because too many restaurants I go to, they're going to town on the oil and the salt, and sometimes the sugar. And that just drives me crazy. I like to be able to taste the ingredients. So if you or someone you know is like always complaining that the restaurants aren't making the food your way, then make it yourself. And visit my website, stepbystepchef.com. I have this in a printable recipe. I have printable recipes and links for well over 100 different dishes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a couple of desserts. And you can make those by yourself. And you can, even with my recipes, I'm not like I'm not like a cook dictator. I don't think that everything I make is going to be exactly the way you want it. But what I do is I want to encourage you and inspire you to then taste these basic ingredients and go, hey, I think it needs more soy sauce. Or maybe it needs more ginger or more garlic. Or maybe you want to cook it longer. Maybe you don't like your broccoli this crisp. But that's the fun of cooking. And cooking's not complicated. It is step by step. Just like everything you've ever learned in your life, it's step by step. And I really want you to try this. So I'm just going to give this 5 more minutes. I want the sauce to heat up. It's already thickening. And then I think this is going to be all ready to serve on our rice, our Chinese noodles, our lo mein noodles, however you like it. So I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, now this stir fry is done. The broccoli is still a little bit crisp, which is perfect. And then the sauce is cooked great. The pork is mixed in perfectly. Now, extra for experts, and it depends on, your taste. If you like your stir fry just a little bit sweeter, and some people do, put in 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar. Just stir that in. I wouldn't go too much more than that because then you're going to end up with candied broccoli stir fry. But you can add that just 1 tablespoon and it should make it a little sweeter for people who don't like things on the earthy side. So there we go. You done good. So congratulations. Look at what you just made. You just made this delicious broccoli stir fry with Chinese barbecued pork. Now, if you want the printable recipe for this, visit my website, stepbystepchef.com. There you're also going to find printable recipes for over 100 delicious breakfast, lunch, and dinners, and a couple of desserts, along with free video links. Every recipe has a free step-by-step video link. The other thing you're going to find on the site is a link to my cookbook. This is on Amazon.com in printable and Kindle editions, and it's very, very affordable. This is my first 114 recipes, and it's perfect for beginning cooks or experienced cooks who want to try something new. Please check this out. You'll be my hero. And if you don't want to buy the book, the free recipes are there for you to print, so you can shop through it and find what you want. No hard feelings. So again, my name is Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.